Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Passive Income Attorney Podcast. Thank you once again for joining me as we learn and explore the world of alternative investing together. Before we get to our guest, if you're ready to start creating your own economy and taking back control of your life and kicking that billable hour to the curb, start by going to attorneybydesign.com, whether you're an attorney or not, and downloading the Freedom Blueprint. All right, kiddos, today we need to dream big, real big. If you're just pushing a few bucks into your 401k or buying the newest crypto coin at 2 cents a piece or playing around on Robinhood or even thinking about buying your first or next single family rental, just stop right there. You're better than that. You're more intelligent than that. Think bigger. Think about how you can stack, scale, and supercharge your investment returns so that you can buy back your precious time. Be intentional with your investment dollars. Have a plan. For example, listen, take that couple $100,000 you have in savings and put it to work. Throw it in an infinite banking policy where it gets 5% interest. Borrow against that policy. Use half to start a passive franchise, let's say like a laundromat. Use the other half and put it in a passive commercial real estate investment. The franchise will generate ongoing profits. The passive real estate investment will kick off cash flow and likely double your money in 3 to 5 years, and reinvest all of those cash flows back into other investments and watch it grow exponentially. Your money is now working its ass off for you rather than the other way around. And wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You've now created your own economy. All right. Our guest of honor today is none other than the Ken Van Liew, who has always dreamed big. My man has built Manhattan skyscrapers and studies under Tony Robbins. Ken is a titan in the world of real estate, responsible for over $1 billion of commercial construction across dozens of projects, and has forever changed the New York skyline. He regularly speaks on stages including NYU Real Estate Institute and the College of Engineering at Rutgers University, and is a best-selling author. All right, I'm fired up. Let's go.
This is the Passive Income Attorney Podcast, where you'll discover the secrets and strategies of the ultra-wealthy on how they build streams of passive income to give them the freedom we all want. Attorney Seth Bradley will help you end the cycle of trading your time for money so you can make money while you sleep. Start living the good life on your own terms. Now, here's your host, Seth Bradley.
Ken, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
What's happening? How are you, bro?
Doing great, man. Doing great. You're looking good over there. Looking good.
Yeah, trying to stay in shape. I wrote it down. It was probably 20 years ago. I wanted to be the best shape of my life when I hit 60. So I'm 59 and honing in. I'm at
there we go. There we go, man. See those lats, man. They're bulging.
Yeah, all those years of playing football and doing that, that trap exercise.
Yep, there you go. That's the one, man. That's the one. All right, man. Well, let's jump right in. What's your story for those folks that are living under a rock and don't know about you? Take it back as far as you want.
Yeah, I grew up in a middle-class family. My dad climbed telephone poles. My mom was a banker. And she bought me my first piggy bank and then brought me to the bank to open up my first account, gave me the value of money. But, I never really, learned how to make money. Fourth grade, I started failing, classes. I had a hard time reading comprehension. I wasn't the hard, best student. I was on the, fast forward. I was on the 6-year college plan, so it took me a while to get into engineering, but I never gave up. I then, took a few times before I passed my PE exam. I took it 5 times. By that time, when I became a professional engineer, I was making a lot of money in construction in New York City. But in engineering school, I happened to win a site development award where in 1985, I designed a 13-acre site. And that planted a little seed, along with the seed that I planted in 1980, that about when I read the book, Robert Allen, how to buy property with no money down. I just couldn't figure it out because I couldn't afford a car. And I'm saying, how are people buying a house? Then I went off to college and forgot about that. And, fast forward 6 years later, got an engineering degree. And then I was like, now what? I was fortunate to have built 2 skyscrapers for the Left Rack organization on the water in Jersey City. And then, I just went on from there, building skyscrapers in New York City. Went on to do a couple master's degrees at night, figuring out, thinking that was going to get me to, move up the corporate ladder that I realized wasn't paying me enough to afford the twins. And then I decided to jump out and do a real estate deal from, I guess, what I would call top-down thinking, where most people don't start and do, a $17 million project, on their first project.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, man. I can certainly relate to you with the blue collar family. I grew up similarly. My mom's a retired grade school teacher. My dad's a retired coal miner. So I can relate where you came from. We didn't really get that financial education. It was just kind of, not about real estate or starting a business. It was about, putting your head down and working hard and getting those degrees. It looks like behind you though, man, even though you struggled a little bit there at the beginning, you've got quite a few degrees and certifications behind you.
What happens as a kid or whatever, you realize, that you're not enough. Right. So then you just keep working hours and hours and hours. And, I thought that, I didn't have it and I wasn't enough. And I kept just, getting them all and getting the licenses and, it opened tremendous doors. And, I'm thankful that I did it today, but, there's definitely other ways to get educated,
Yeah, definitely, man. So, we always like to talk about inflection points on this show. Do you think reading that book by Robert Allen was one of those inflection points for you where you were like, kind of had that aha moment and started looking at, real estate or alternative investments?
It was actually, I was around 27 years old and I had just passed my PE exam and I had to go to New Jersey Institute of Technology to get my transcript. And literally, I'm like, let me go over to the Rutgers Library. And I went over to the Rutgers Library, probably because there was more girls hanging out on that campus. Not New Jersey Institute of Technology was all guys, Yeah. But anyway, I walk in and I see this book on syndication. I wasn't even sure what syndication. It said syndication and joint ventures. And I pulled the book off the, off the shelf, and I took it out and I started reading it. And the point that really the inflection point was in the first paragraph, it said, anyone can put a syndication together. They could be a builder, a doctor, a banker, a lawyer, a social worker. And I was like, wow, I get along with people really good. I could put together, people. And I just had this plan on creating a syndication, and that's how it started.
That's cool, man. So you kind of figured that out before it got, into the mainstream, and now you hear about it more and more. But back in the day, it wasn't like that, right?
Yeah, I honestly hadn't heard the word before. And then I looked up Ron Trowbridge and I read this big fat book. And, I kind of put it into my own terminology. I put 20 people together, and my first project out of the box was a $17 million development of 113 bed assisted living, 72,000 square feet. And because I had the building background, I was so fascinated that I had this project. I went and prefabricated most of the building out in Pennsylvania and had all the studs shipped in from Jersey actually. And then the planking from Pennsylvania, and just erected a 72,000 square foot building. I think it was up in like 6 weeks. It was crazy.
That's incredible, man. You've got a crystal ball. I mean, you're seeing the assisted living, the syndications. It's like you're a step ahead, man.
And the funny thing was, I didn't even know what a certificate of need was. When, I guess, I believe, and God's brought me down this path, to get here so I could help pay it forward to your listeners. And, let's, do something together. We've been talking about it.
Yeah. For sure, man. Let's rewind a little bit back to the skyscrapers, man. A lot of people can't even kind of comprehend that, right? They see skyscrapers in, the big downtowns of major cities. And it's like, I mean, how did you get into that? How did you get into building a skyscraper? That's like the apex of development.
Yeah, great question. I was a hustler. So while going to school at night, I worked for an attorney doing construction claims. And literally he opened up his office to me, which was just a great, great opportunity. And one day, one of his clients worked for Lear McGovern at the time. It was a big construction management firm, and they had landed the restoration of the Statue of Liberty. And he starts telling me this. I'm like, wow, what is this like big construction thing? I was a civil engineer doing construction claims. And he starts, just telling me about these fascinating projects. And I'm looking online and my eyes just like lit up. I was like, this is crazy. And he's like, I'm building this project in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I'm thinking about leaving one day, would you be interested? I was like, to build a project? I said, I'd move there in a heartbeat. I'm single, So the next thing I moved to Poughkeepsie, New York, and I'm project manager, project super on this 32 unit condo coming out of the ground in the middle of the winter. And as I was finishing up that project, I had so much confidence. I'm 25 years old, just finished a building, I was like 23 years old. Told my wife, I saw this article in the paper, building a 10-year project on the waterfront. I find out a little bit about it. It was the Left Rack organization. I looked them up. They had built 88,000 apartments. They were redoing the whole waterfront. And I just called my wife with total certainty. It wasn't my wife, my girlfriend at the time. I said, I'm moving back to New Jersey. I'm going to be building a high rise on the water. She's like, hey, you're crazy. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, I had this job running two 33-story buildings. I was 25 years old on the water. And I literally, coming out of the ground, we were pouring a floor like every other day. It was a concrete plant right on the site. I could see 40 concrete trucks coming at me from across this major field. Looked like 2 miles away, but we had the whole waterfront. We had our own a whole concrete plant. It was amazing. And when I finished that at like 26, 27, I went to work for another developer. And I did a bunch of buildings in northern New Jersey. And he became a mentor, and he says, if you really want to do this, you got to go to New York City and build high rise. He goes, you built one on the water. He says, go do that for 10 years and you can go anywhere in the world. And when I left that developer, I went and I worked for that company, Bovis. I went, years later, and I worked myself up the ladder from super to project executive. And then I jumped out and worked for some other big developers in New York City. And then that was about 20-year period. So fast forward to 2001, I opened up my own company, 97 actually, but by 2001, we were at full gear.
That's cool, man. What did that transition look like? Kind of going from, engineer to working your way up the ladder to then just going out on your own and actually having your own projects and running those things?
Yeah, great question. I looked at it like this, so I started this engineering thing and I'm like, wow, I know how to design a subdivision. This is pretty cool. I can design the drainage and, I know how to understand it all. No one can bullshit me, and then I learned how to build a building and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I know how to build a building. And then it got down to, I didn't know how to finance them. And that's where the second master's degree came in at NYU. And then I kind of put them all together and I'm like, wow, if I could try this myself, that'd be pretty cool. And it was in 1996, I made a move to a small GC and I brought it from like 5 to 40 million. And then they wanted to become a women's business owned enterprise. And I said, that's not my path. And at that point in 97, I opened up my own company, but I wasn't quite ready. So it took almost till 99 of me kind of working at night and, getting the confidence to kind of break free. When I convinced my wife after a golf outing to take some money out of the piggy bank, because I was going to quit my job and join a country club and raise money and develop a property. She thought I was nuts, but that's how it started. It was crazy.
That's interesting. I mean, going back to that time, it's tough to go from, getting that paycheck, especially when you've worked your way up to a high position, you're making a lot of money. And then you're like, I'm just going to go out and do it on my own. And then you're in total control of your own destiny, but those paychecks stop. And then you've got to make it on your own at that point.
Yeah. That was a real eerie feeling. And I'll tell you how and you being probably a lot smarter than me with all those degrees over there. But, I just tried to break it down in the sense, my wife, I kind of merged all that together. I was making back in the day there, it was over 150 grand. I think I was probably up at like 170 grand, because they paid us a lot of money to run those big projects. And I said to myself, I still can't really afford, the diapers and the formula and the vacations and the lifestyle I wanted. So I always kept thinking, how can I earn fees? I didn't have a lot of capital. And, I just really created this system in my head where I says, if I could create this taxation filtration system, which I literally did, I drew it all out. I went to my accountant, my lawyer. I said, will I get in trouble if I do this? And they're like, no, but that's right on the fine line, but literally I had a C corp where I said, if I take 100 grand in and I pay off a bunch of bills and then zero that out into an S corp, pay all my bills and then zero that out into 2 LLCs. One was an administrative, one was me as a consultant. It was my wife and I. And then from there, pay off some expenses and actually pay our kids, which was legal. I ended up dumping in 100 at the top and paying taxes on 30 and literally lowering my need for money because everything was being paid at all these company expense levels. So I managed to live off 60 grand, use the other 40 to buy this 12-acre piece at, that 12-acre piece that I developed contingent upon approval. And with that 100 grand, I literally never looked back. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's crazy what you can do with taxes when you own your own business and filter it through, LLCs and corporations compared to, if you're working for somebody, you're just paying your taxes and you're paying a lot, especially if you're making a lot of money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool, man. What do you think are some of, you worked your way up, you started your own company, you built that out and been wildly successful. What are some of the sacrifices you think you had to make to kind of get that far and to be this successful of an entrepreneur?
Yeah, the initial sacrifices, which took me a couple years to resurrect, was being away from my family. I literally woke up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. Being a super on the job when the men were going up at the hoist at 6:30, the super had to be there like at 6. Stopping the trailers if you needed something done. They went up in the hoist, forget about it. That you weren't getting it done that day. And that's really, getting up early, having that morning routine, believing in yourself, are some of the mindsets, going out there and, just never giving up,
Yeah, I mean, that exactly. And motivation, it comes and goes, right? I mean, some mornings you get up and it's rough and you're like, oh man, I don't feel like getting out of bed. I want to sleep in a couple more hours, and it just kind of comes and goes. I mean, what would you tell listeners are kind of the best way to achieve long-term success like you have, rather than just kind of being motivated today and having a really productive day, but instead being motivated long-term and just being able to be productive, over the long term?
Yeah, I mean, first, you got to start with, a compelling future, and really, have a vision, and believe that you can create anything, anything is possible. I always believe that, 2 things that have really helped me out is creating a morning routine, getting up, a little earlier than everybody else. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I always felt like, people strolling in at 8, I had a good 3 hours ahead of them. And then on top of that, is time blocking mastery. You're like really, sitting down on a Sunday night and spending an hour about how you're going to block your time out to achieve the goals you want 5 years down the road. It's really about reverse engineering and having that clear vision on where you want to be 5 years down the road and realizing like, what do I have to do today in order to get there for sure in 5 years down the road?
Yeah, I love that, man. You've got to have goals, right? You've got to see what those goals are down the line, even your goals for tomorrow or next month or next quarter or 10 years from now. Have those goals and reverse engineer it and figure out what you got to do today to get there in the long run.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, I really want to know who's the real Ken Van Liew, man. What's kind of your passion and what makes you tick? What makes you get up early in the morning to, like you said, to get through all that stuff and to, keep pushing every day to be your best self? I mean, what really makes you tick?
Yeah. I'll tell you, this is something I've been doing since I was a kid. And, I've always liked magic. I don't know if you've ever, and it's funny because you can actually take the coin and place it in your hand, just give it a little blow and you can vanish it. And then you just take another piece of dust and you can actually just bring it back. But, I like bringing more money, time, and magic into people's lives. And I've been doing magic since I was a little kid. It wakes me up every day. I carry coins and cards with me every day. I have three amazing kids. My son is a U.S. intelligence Marine officer, black belt in karate and Eagle Scout. I don't know where he came from, but I know that he's serving our country. So that gets me up every morning. I realized that I used to complain going to New York City being cold, but after learning a little bit about his infantry trainings and being out in the freezing cold with nothing and soaking wet, I'm not cold anymore. But, and then I have two wonderful daughters, and my beautiful wife that I've been with, married for 33 years and been with her for 39 years now, is really what gets me up. And, I have such a passion for real estate. I have to, force myself to shut it off. I just love working it, building educational platforms, helping others, I'm either developing something, looking to buy something, or coaching somebody, and, balancing that out with the time blocking, so that I have the 22% that I need with my family each week, and, all that kind of stuff, because life never gets balanced. You have to, you got to get your business done, and you got to keep your priorities straight, which is family. But the time thing is never balanced, so you got to be able to create these magical moments with your loved ones and your children that they never ever forget. Each one of my children had a special thing with me. My son, it was scouting. My other daughter became like a master of culinary and dietetics and nutrition, and it was from going out to date nights all the time and talking to the chef. And then my youngest went big into equine. And so it's creating those magic moments in your life. And I'm not just talking about, create them for yourself, create magic moments for yourself that you can never forget. Reward yourself. I'm really, really big on measuring, because if you want to create any type of process mastery, you have to mirror and model. But if you don't set a basis of measuring, you're really not going to get the result that you want, and a lot of the process mastery that you want is right in front of you, where people keep thinking, you got to meet more people, focus on who you already know and become genuinely interested in what they do, and listen at a whole new level of transformation, and you'll see things that you've never seen before.
That's incredible, man. That's incredible. Let's go back to that point on balance. What do you mean by, because everybody always talks about trying to find balance, right? They're trying to find a work life, family life balance. And you say that you can't really find that balance. Go into that a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, it's not that you can't find it, but with people think like that I'm going to have like balance in life, like life is just not balanced, and life is not fair, right? Period, right? You're going to swim with sharks. There's going to be people trying to take advantage of you. There's times where, I have to go get that money because it's going to take care of my family. So you have to go away from your family a little while. So, but you got to if you don't know that it's being done by design, you create damage. It's like a bull in a china closet. Sometimes, you're walking through, crashing things, and, entrepreneurs are a little crazy. And if I knew that, and I'm sharing it now, that, by design, if I didn't have to disconnect from my family and make them feel disconnected. I could have pre-framed them and said, hey guys, you know what, for the next 30 days, you're not going to see dad. We have the turnover, and I'm going to be getting limos home at night because I'm going to be, pushing 600 guys till midnight so that we can turn over that skyscraper. And, it was hard because then I would do school at night. I'd work all day, 4 days a week. I'd go to school at night. And I created that whole magic moment thing that I shared before because I was away for a long time. And I analogized myself as, wow, you broke a lot of those nice little, knickknacks as you were going through the room. Now you got to go buy some new ones, So, I just shared that because, you got to do what you got to do, which gets you out of balance, but you got to know how to maintain the balance, if that makes sense. So if you're cranking for, 6 days in a row, if Sunday's not your day, take a Monday and go, you know what, guys, we're all going to go out to the zoo today and buy big chicken, or just do something crazy that they will never, ever forget. And then you recharge your battery, right? you connect at this level that they will never forget. And like, everything's really cool, moving forward. It like reduces the friction.
Yeah, I love that, man. It's hard to just I mean, you don't want to stay here all the time. It's like sometimes you've got to put a lot of time into your business because it needs that focus. It needs you there. It needs your time and attention. So you put all your focus and energy there, and then you run back across, and then you put all your time and energy with your family to create those magical all-in moments that you talked about. And then at least when you're, in your business, you're present, and when you're with your family, you're present. And I think that gets lost sometimes because sometimes you're spending time with your family and you're not really there. You're thinking about business, or you're in your business and you're thinking about your family. If you can figure out a way, like you said, to kind of create those magic moments with your family and then also focus on your business, you can be all in on one side or the other. And that's kind of its own way of balancing.
Yeah. And that's something you're going to want to even reiterate, because it's even tougher now. We chatted upon it a little bit, how the world has changed. So a lot of people are working out of their house, and you really don't want to get into, you want to keep changing, be dynamic, and don't get stuck in that, but it's all good.
Yeah, it makes it even more difficult. That's probably why you're back in the office hanging out with your general counsel.
It's funny that you say it, because I was looking, I'm like, wow, I have my workout at my house now. I have my man cave, I have the podcast set up. I'm not leaving here much. So, I'm like, I'm going to the office. I got to get back into the routine,
Yeah.
I went to the city yesterday. I was hanging out with Bill Walsh. Manhattan's livening up again. And, things are just happening. So it's exciting. My girls are getting married this year. We got 2 weddings, and it's just really cool.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations on that, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into a little bit of, what current projects are you working on? And then I'd like to jump into the modern wealth building formula.
Sure. Real exciting. I at 17, my sweetheart, high school sweetheart, moved to Chester, New Jersey, broke my heart. Thought I was going to marry her and everything, but anyway, still friends with her today, believe it or not. But when she moved to Chester, there was this world-renowned, people that, I've mentioned it around the world, they've heard of it, the Chester, the Larson's turkey farm. And I couldn't even really afford to bring her there, at 17, when I got my car, as you heard. I couldn't afford a car, and I didn't even elaborate too much on the no money down thing. But I ended up buying this 26-acre farm and developing it. So we're restoring this 100-year-old restaurant, but I was able to sign a 20-year lease with CVS Pharmacy, which I'm real excited about. And I have an affordable housing component, so that the city's kind of tied to working with us. And then we have a market rate portion, and then we have 20,000 square foot of medical office that we're going to be building, and that's real exciting. I just landed 28 acres in Little Egg Harbor, where today I was kind of laying out. I want to do some self-storage, some flex office. I'm also envisioning some medical office and one of those urgent cares that you've probably seen in your cities. I built one in Manhattan one time. And then I have another 13 acres in Bedminster that we're kind of still in conceptual planning. We were going to do an affordable housing play that we got knocked out of the box by the Kushner family. So it's nice to be close to the president and, all that kind of good stuff, or the former president, because they get the inroads on something. I was like, what? You got to be kidding me. But they had a property that they owned, and it worked out better for them. But we'll capitalize. Yeah, so we got a bunch of developments going on, and, always looking for acquisitions, so, but deals are hard to find these days. So we're pounding the pavement, and, and that's what's happening.
That's cool, man. That's cool. What would you tell our listeners who have kind of a full-time W-2 like you used to have? And, there's a lot of passive investments you could get into nowadays, and they're trying to figure out if they should go passive, but they might have an interest in going active. I mean, what would you tell them? Do you think they should jump in to, passive syndication, maybe invest in one of your deals, or they should go active? I mean, what do you think? What's the best approach nowadays?
Yeah. I always say take a 2-prong approach, and as I've learned over the years, I kind of sat on that fence for a long time, wondering how to do it passively. I didn't really know a lot about it. And then I figured, well, how could I leverage a little bit of money, so it becomes a better passive play? But, I mean, we have projects that people can invest in. We also have some introductory programs. My financial freedom protocol, shows you hands-on investing in residential real estate, but it also gives you a passive perspective where if you were just a syndicator, for example, and you weren't like a hands-on fixer and flipper, that's something that you can look at. And I purposely reposition that program towards residential because I realized in my commercial world and trying to tell people to think from the top down, some people want to start from the bottom up, so I wanted to kind of, fulfill the gamut and have a spot where people can jump in the residential and see what I actually did when I was founder and CEO of Flippin' USA, where we did 137 deals in 1 year. And that's what the Financial Freedom Protocol basically is. It's my operations manual from Flippin' USA. And then I hope it to be, my brand one day, because I'm not going to be able, I'm not going to be alive forever, is the Modern Wealth Building Formula, which is really my formula on how I syndicated my first project and then how I proved it. Even did it on a skyscraper, after the assisted living in 2008 when we built 240 Park Avenue, and then proved it out in Flippin' USA, and that worked out real well. So, that's what we're proud of right now.
Yeah. So what are what is the Modern Wealth Building Formula? Like give us an insider look at that. We'll drop a link for sure in the show notes, but maybe give us a little preview.
Yeah. So they'll probably say, well, what's the difference from the old formula? And I guess, there are a lot of differences in the sense, related to mindset, because I came, from kind of a Tony Robbins background. And then I did a bunch of landmark education training, and I was an introduction leader. And I studied integrity for 13 weeks. And since then I've studied it and studied a paper that came out of Harvard, all about honoring your word. And, when you look at it from just a morality perspective, when you honor your word and always do the next best thing, it takes your integrity to, another whole level, and, I'm breaking my own pattern here on the question. What was the original question there? I'm sorry.
Just tell us about, no worries, man. Tell us about the Modern Wealth Building Formula.
So I went off on the integrity because, without integrity, nothing works, So, what I realized, in the Modern Wealth Building Formula, it was really this process on how I mastered real estate investing. And, it was I was telling you that it was about the mindset with the landmark education and the Tony Robbins and the Jack Canfield, that mindset about never giving up, continuous and never ending improvement. And, those were some of my mentors coming into play. But that thinking and training and, starting out with a Dale Carnegie course when I first got married, kind of all accumulated to like, what was I really doing? Like, how did I raise a family? How did I stay married for 33 years? How did I have a job with, a number one CM firm? How did I start a business? And I started to think about when I built a skyscraper, I said, this skyscraper was like this extraordinary life I built because, the foundations would take 6 months. And then this superstructure, which I had a concrete company, was like your backbone. And, in order for the weather to storm, you had to get the skin on real quick and put the roof on. And then you went into the finishes, and life was like an elevator, up and down, roller coaster, and then you had to, really polish your life and, get the heart of the matter and get the breathing going, the HVAC and the electric. And, it all started to come together where this Modern Wealth Building Formula, how to master real estate investing, was how I created this extraordinary life, and how there was an analogy to this building of the skyscraper thing. I was going to say, that's my next book, by the way, but, I realized that it was a system on how to find, fund, and facilitate real estate. And, I just looked at it and I was like, okay, I found my first deal very, differently than most people. It was through relationships of talking to, a friend who led me to an architect who led me to a dentist. Most people find a deal in the newspaper. I was talking to people in my field, just asking and creating possibilities out of conversation. And then I realized that, my funding thing, I didn't know what I was doing. I told you, I I told my wife, let me join the country club after playing my first round of golf. And I started doing presentations. And the next thing you know, I was raising money, just in a different way than most people did. And I used to go to, back then, it wasn't even Staples. And I would do the board I would put the vinyl on there to show the graph, what the rate of return was. I had the little pointer. I wore my suit and tie, all cool and everything. And I was like, wow, this funding works. I raised $1.7 million and got a loan from the New Jersey EDA. And then I facilitated the process. So I was like, wow, this is not only like a financial freedom protocol, it's also a find, fund, and facilitate system. And that's when all these programs started coming out. And I started, delineating in my mind on how I can cover the full spectrum of real estate investing. And that's when we have residential, commercial, development, and masterminds. And we just started the Global Real Estate Investment Academy, which we're real proud. And that's going to be personalized training. So we got all kinds of things going on.
That's awesome, man. Looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah.
This is kind of a selfish question, but because you have so much going on with, a wide diversity of different types of investments. I mean, turkey farms, apartments, skyscrapers, medical condos. What types of assets are you bullish on in the near term and in the far term?
That's a great question. It's funny because I was just talking with my buddy, Zach Childress, and he screws me all up. He's like, Ken, you got to start checking out the EBITDA of these companies. And like, I just bought this company and I bought it for like 2 times EBITDA, or like 50 cents EBITDA. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He goes, well, I'm just teasing. And he goes, and he goes, no, this company's making 150,000 a year. I gave him 75 grand. I got 25 grand. I'm like, really? That opportunity's out there? So, I think companies are a good asset to look at, because coming out of the pandemic, where they have EBITDAs, but don't have the cash flow or the lead system, what I call is you can merge ecosystems with those people. If you have lead systems, lead generation systems, or you have know-how. And now he's got me thinking about, wow, I have all these like trade contractors that are sucking wind. If I threw 50 here or 20 here, like who knows what that could lead to. So I'm now going to look at companies and, maybe mergers and acquisitions as some type of asset, view. But I always think real estate is something that you need to keep in. And, recently someone brought to my attention, precious metals and stuff. Not, this is all stuff that's not my bailiwick, but, now at my age, I guess I could start looking at that kind of stuff. And, people say I should invest in Bitcoin, but, my advisor's like, it really doesn't have any value. There's no, way to value it, so, I mean, who knows? I'll study that one day,
Yeah, it's funny. I know a friend who actually started I think it's $10 million fund so that he could go out and buy businesses, buy the actual businesses. I mean, everything from, something in the service industry, like coffee shops, to gyms, to, online businesses. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Great idea. I'd like to learn more about that.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely, man. All right, well, let's jump into the Freedom 4.
It's time for the Freedom 4.
What's the best thing you do to keep your mind and body healthy?
Yeah, I have to go back to, my alarm goes off at 5. I have a 30-minute get ready. And then at 5:30, I move for 50 minutes. And then right after that, I meditate. And after that, I'm pretty golden. I fuel my body and then not rush into my day. And, I designed my life after many, many years of getting up at 5 and rushing out the door to do that. But that keeps me sane.
Yeah, definitely gotta have that morning routine. It's working, man. It's working. What's one life hack, it could be technology or otherwise, or just something in life you use to be your most productive self?
Yeah, I have to go with, I read this article, it must have been 5-6 years ago. It was called The Secret Weapon. And it led me to a simple app called Evernote, which is like my information retrieval Bible. I have probably over 4,000 things at my fingertips at all times. And it's all categorized and tagged. So like at any moment, if I'm sitting in a parking lot and I got some dead time and I type in calls, like all my calls will pop up that I need to make. And that's kind of a little hack that I created with Evernote. And then, the other thing is I have this time blocking sheet, which people think I'm crazy, where like I look at every single minute of the day or hour of the day, 168 hours of the day. And what I've done is I've calculated the percentages of all the time that I spend. So when we talked about that balance thing, I could actually look at my time blocking chart and see that like, okay, I'm 11% on my spirituality. I'm 22% on my relationships. I'm 60% here. Okay. I need to adjust this. Yeah. And then, like I create like, this, now I'm creating a Fun Friday so I can start playing more golf.
There you go. There you
go. So I'm going to cancel it too.
Do you do that manually, or is there like an app or something for that?
Nah, I just do it on an Excel spreadsheet kind of manually, because, and I do it maybe twice a year just to kind of look at that snapshot. Cause there was a time where, your relationships get strained. There was times where me and my wife, we talked about divorce, and it was like, we're only talking a half hour, like a week, or like, we were all like, it's like, because like, like I was never around. I was going to school. Like, why don't we create a date night, and then we started date nights on Friday, and we had soulmate Saturday. And then we had, Super Soul Sunday or whatever, so we created these things to do together,
Yeah, that's cool, man. That time blocking was born right then.
Yeah, exactly. And I got my Pomodoro, like little sand things on my desk, and, cause you can only concentrate usually for 20 minutes and then you're thinking about something else, so little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one actionable step our listeners can do right now to start creating more freedom?
Yeah, I would have to say, give yourself, wake up 1 hour earlier a day, because that's going to be 356 extra hours you're going to have this year. And if you divide that by 40, that's pretty substantial, almost 8 additional weeks, right? Even more than that you're going to have this year. And in 8 weeks, you could create an extraordinary life.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of people think that they don't have enough time in the day. They're like, I can't learn about real estate investing. I can't learn about this new business. I've got a full-time job. I've got kids. I've got all this stuff to do. But, you can create time for yourself if you make it a priority. If you have to get up an hour earlier and get, 6 hours of sleep instead of 7 or something like that, do what you got to do, even if it's for a short amount of time, till you can kind of create that flexibility and freedom you need to accelerate your wealth and your happiness.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Last but not least, how has passive income made your life better?
Well, it's definitely given me more money, time, and magic in my life. And I don't want to steal that phrase. That's my partner, Sean Callaghy. I'm the magician, but he has, he's a blind man. I may have told you he's a blind attorney, unblinded mastery. And, he's taught me some things recently, but passive income, when I met Sean, I realized how grateful, how blessed I was, because sometimes you forget, or you get hung up on, everybody's normal, on how much, opportunity and money I have and properties I own, and it was really about, how do I put more magic in my life, now as grandkids are coming. And so I'm always looking at putting more magic and, but it really comes down to money, time, and magic in your life.
Perfect, man. All right, Ken, really appreciate you coming on today. Where can our listeners find out more about you?
It's real simple, kenvanliew.com. I have free strategy sessions. Just click on the Discover How button and you can get a copy of my book, all that stuff right on the website.
All right, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Great having you.
Yeah, Seth, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, kiddos. That was Ken Van Liew, bringing the heat. Such a great guy, and what a resume he has. Major key, dream big. If you do what everyone else does, you're going to get what everybody else has, and you're better than that. You're smarter than that. Dream big and accomplish much. All right, let's start buying back some of that precious time. Let's start building some alternative passive income streams together. Go to passiveincomeattorney.com and join our Esquire Passive Investor Club. Until next time, folks, enjoy the journey.
Thank you for listening to the Passive Income Attorney Podcast with Seth Bradley. Do you want more ideas on how to generate multiple streams of passive income? Then jump over to passiveincomeattorney.com for show notes and resources. Then apply for the private Facebook community by searching for the Passive Income Attorney on Facebook. And we'll see you on the next episode.